marks the beginning of the 5th year of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. But, there aren't any celebrations of resilience tonight. There's just the cold, the darkness, and a really terrifying new doctrine that is shaping this next brutal phase of the war. So let's break down what's really going on.
The scene is Kyiv, and it is minus 11 degrees Celsius. Now, for most of us, that's just a weather report, right? A number on an app. But for the millions of people still holding on in that capital city, this number isn't a statistic. It's a weapon of war that's actively being used against them. Because when the lights go out, the cold is what rushes in to take their place.
And the lights are definitely going out. In just the last 24 hours, Russia has unleashed what is its most intensive aerial campaign of 2026 so far. And the scale is just staggering. We're talking 347 separate aerial threats. Nearly 300 of those were strike drones. A mix of those familiar Iranian shades and some newer, cheaper models that are really just designed to overwhelm air defenses. And then on top of that, 50 ballistic and hypersonic missiles. Think about that. It breaks down to nearly 1 missile or drone launched at Ukraine every 4 minutes. For an entire day. It's a relentless, suffocating barrage. Now, while Ukraine's air defenses did manage to intercept over 300 of these threats, what got through was devastating. And one strike in particular, well, it wasn't just aimed at a power station or a military base. This was aimed squarely at the West. It was a message sent with a hypersonic missile to an American factory that makes cookies. This one attack on a civilian factory, it signals a huge shift in Russian strategy. It's one that's being driven by some truly staggering realities on the ground. Stay with me till the end, because I'm going to reveal some shocking numbers that explain exactly why this war has had to change so dramatically. So the target was in Trostinets, in the Sumy region. This wasn't a munitions depot. It wasn't a barracks. It was a factory owned by the American multinational corporation Mondelez International. Yeah, this is the company that makes world-famous brands like Oreo and Milka. This plant, it was one of the first major U.S. investments in an independent Ukraine, a real symbol of economic partnership. Now, it's a symbol of something much, much darker. Ukraine's foreign minister, Andriy Sybiha, he didn't mince words. He called the strike exactly what it was: deliberate economic terror. This wasn't some mistake or just collateral damage. This was a calculated act of aggression against a non-military, foreign-owned asset. So what does that term economic terror actually mean? Well, economic terror is a strategy designed to make a country completely untouchable for foreign investment. The message from Moscow is brutally simple. Any money you pour into Ukraine to help it rebuild, we will burn to the ground. It is a high-stakes gamble. It's aimed at shaking the resolve of the Western businesses and governments that are absolutely vital to Ukraine's long-term survival. It's a way of looking at Washington and saying, your interests are not safe here. But to really understand why Russia is resorting to hitting cookie factories, you have to look away from the sky for a second and back down to the frozen ground. Because while the skies are on fire, the front line has become this static, frozen graveyard. And the staggering cost of this stalemate is precisely what is forcing this strategic pivot. For months now, that line of contact has barely budged. This isn't a war of sweeping maneuvers anymore. It is a brutal, bloody war of attrition. So the question is, what does that attrition actually cost Russia? Well, the number, it's almost impossible to comprehend. 1.25 million. According to the latest reports from the Ukrainian General Staff, and this has been corroborated by analysis from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, Russia has suffered 1.25 million casualties. That figure includes soldiers killed, wounded, or missing in action. Just let that number sink in for a moment. 1.25 million. Okay, so to put that 1.25 million figure into perspective, in a decade of war in Afghanistan, the Soviet Union lost about 15,000 soldiers. In nearly 2 decades in Vietnam, the United States lost around 58,000. Russia's losses in Ukraine are more than 20 times the American losses in Vietnam. This is a demographic catastrophe, a scale of loss not seen by any major power since the Second World War. And for this catastrophic human cost, what has the Kremlin gained? Well, the Russian rate of advance in the past year has slowed to a crawl. We're talking about 15 to 70 meters per day, not kilometers, meters. Every single inch of ground is paid for in blood, especially now that AI-integrated drones have made those large-scale tank assaults of the war's early days practically obsolete. The ground war is a meat grinder, and it's failing. So they look to the sky.
And that brings us right back to the cities and to the second part of this new strategy. If you can't defeat the army on the battlefield, you try to make the country behind that army simply unlivable. You weaponize the darkness and you weaponize the cold.
And the grim reality is, it's working. This isn't 2022. The resilience, it's still there, but the infrastructure is absolutely crumbling. We are now witnessing a new massive wave of internal displacement. Recent reports suggest that over 600,000 people have fled the capital city of Kyiv in just the last month alone, all of them heading west to cities like Lviv or crossing into Poland, just seeking warmth and light. And this is why this strategy is so insidious. At minus 11 degrees, a strike on the power grid isn't just about turning off the lights. It creates this horrifying domino effect. First, the power fails. Okay, then that means the water pumps stop working. With no water flowing, the central heating pipes, the lifeblood of these huge Soviet-era apartment blocks, they freeze solid, and then they burst. And just like that, in a matter of hours, a modern city becomes a medieval ice trap.
So as we stand here on the edge of the 5th year of this war, what we have is a brutal stalemate on the ground and a campaign of economic and civilian terror from the sky. And the entire world is just holding its breath, watching to see what the next move will be.
And right now, there are absolutely no signs of de-escalation. It's this terrifying, logical tit-for-tat spiral. Ukraine is pleading for more advanced air defense interceptors, things like the Iris-T and Patriot Systems, to protect its cities. It's also demanding new long-range cruise missiles, reportedly codenamed Flamingo, to strike back at the Russian industrial base that builds these weapons. And in response, Russia is doubling down on its adversary entente, signing €500 million deals with Iran for more missiles and advanced military tech. Each side just keeps escalating to counter the other.
And all of this brings us back to that destroyed Oreo factory. So the crucial question is, what happens now? Is this calculated strike on an American business a red line? Is it the turning point that forces a totally new level of US involvement? Or, in the brutal, cold calculus of this conflict, is it simply another tragic Tuesday in a grinding, endless war? The answer to that question is likely going to define year 5.
This situation is evolving daily, so be sure to subscribe to this channel for the latest updates. And go ahead and watch the video that's coming up on your screen. Thanks for watching.